Welcome to Empyrean Galactic Survival. This is episode 2 in our workshop series, a new series where I explore my own creations as well as the creations of other builders. So, in this episode I want to cover two ships that one is already in my current playthrough Series 3 series, and the other one is something I'm going to be introducing very shortly. So, if you haven't already done so already, do make sure to check out the previous workshop video as well as our current playthrough series of Series 3. We're up to about 37 episodes as of this time of recording. It's quite a lot of content, guys, so please go and make sure you go and view some of that. So, I'm trying to do a bit of a sneaky one. I'm not trying to reveal the other ship just yet, so try and keep it out of view for now. So, in our current playthrough, let's just go into God mode, probably better, so we can get rid of the noise of the jetpack. So, in our current playthrough, we are using this new ship. It's called the Storm Heavy Gunship. It's a remodel of our first capital ship, which was the Turret class gunship. This one I've covered in previous videos as well, but this is the variation B of the one I've done in the previous video. So variation B basically means, if we just go inside, it's got all the same features as variation A, which is the one I did the previous reveal of in the other workshop video, but this one has been slightly remodeled on the inside. So we've got the repair unit just there. Over here we've got a quite extensive remodeling in terms of the elevator shafts. So we've got some storage units, some O2 tanks. You'll notice the fact that we have this, so where before we had I think it was the repair block was right in front here, so there was no corridor here. So the variation B, we now have got a corridor, and that corridor leads into a growth area. So basically a small little farming unit inside the ship where we can grow some crops with two grow lights. So that is the major change to this design. We've got a couple of overflow storage units embedded into the ship, accessible through the device manager. They're actually been labeled cargo, I think it's cargo overload, but oh sorry, cargo overflow 1, 2 and 3. We've got a quick access cargo area over here, so this is sort of like just an ad hoc storage unit that we kind of threw in here. We've moved the repair station over to this corner along with the armor locker. Obviously you've seen the roof access before, so we've got this little gangway which leads up to the main landing deck on top, which now has a repair block on it. So yeah, that's variation B. So a nice little change from variation A. So we're using this current ship in our playthrough at the minute. Now let's just get out of the ship. I'm just going to jump out the bottom here. Right, so now for the big reveal. If you haven't watched Series 3, especially episode 37, you won't be aware that in that current episode we were trying to raid a Zirax planet, and we're just in episode 36 taken out an advanced fortress, and it done a right old number on our small vessel. In fact, we'd been KO'd by a drone that blew a hole right through the ship and taken out the warp drive. So luckily at that point I'd already taken out the defense station, but it was a hell of a hard fight for the SV to kind of do. And when we finally landed the ship and got out on foot, we encountered a lot of ground troops, and that made trying to take that advanced fortress very hard. In episode 37 we attempted to do the same thing again, but with another fortress, and this one had a lot more drone coverage, and that didn't go according to plan. I'll be perfectly honest, guys. We got absolutely cream crackered. Our SV was getting absolutely just Swiss cheesed. It was having holes blown through it left, right and centre. It didn't help by the fact we didn't have any rockets left, and it didn't help that when I tried to take the capital ship in, I'd completely forgotten that there had been some changes to the game, and I'm realising now that those changes were most likely things I had done in the config file of the game itself and not necessarily how the game was meant to run. But effectively I was relying on rocket turrets to be able to take out some of the turrets, and they weren't firing because obviously rocket turrets don't work on planets, which left me with just 2 chain guns and a load of sentry guns. So my capital ship nearly got taken out, and I withdrew at the end of that episode 37, and episode 38 is very much about what to do about that particular situation. So between episode 38 and 37 I spent some time in creative thinking about what exactly I needed to take on a challenge like that, and this is it. So it became very apparent to me that the gunship was really good in space. That's the one thing I can honestly say. This ship took on a Xerox frigate with little to no problems, and it completely KO'd it very quickly. But in terms of ground operations, because of its reliance on space-based weaponry, it just didn't have the firepower to take on ground targets, and it didn't have the carrying capacity either to bring anything of worth to a planet to help do the ground operations. So there was no way I could realistically get a half decent tank and carry it along on this ship. The only area I could realistically use as a carrying area is this one here, so the underneath section, but that leaves me with a very low profile tank, which means I can't have a turret on top because, you know, it's going to get caught when trying to dock. So I thought about what I needed. I needed a ship that had essentially firepower that could be deployed in both space and on planetary environments. It had enough coverage so that it could essentially fire everywhere from any angle at anything, and I also needed it to be fairly maneuverable, so with a good spread of engines all over the place, which you can tell from this ship, and I needed the ability to carry primarily tanks or some kind of land vehicle, and that's exactly what I've got here. So yeah, just ignore it a minute, it's hovering off the ground. But if we go in here, we've got a rather large, spacious cargo bay. Yeah, that is really loud. That's double thickness door, by the way. It's 2 hangar doors back to back, so it's a double thick door. So if one set of doors gets taken out, there's a second set of doors behind it to stop breaches into the hull. We've also separated this out by this glass casing all the way around the cargo kind of hangar area. So this is a fairly good spacious area. Yes, I did have trouble fitting the warp drive in, so it ended up on the ceiling. I think I did a rather good job with that. I think that's, you know, it's far enough from the player that it's not going to give you any radiation poisoning or heat or anything like that. I decided to include the cargo area, the cargo storage, in this area, simply because, you know, if you're bringing a ship in, say ship or more like a hover vessel, any kind of vessel in fact, if you get it in here through those doors, then, you know, you can use this area. If you're doing that or you're just a player, then having access to the cargo bay in the cargo bay or in the hangar area kind of makes a lot more sense. So I've used a lot of this floor, by the way, for cargo extensions. So most of these ramps, for example, all of this, all around here, all the walls, for example, all cargo extenders. Yeah, that's really loud. So all of this is cargo extenders, right? As you can see through this window just here, I have 4 because you know, 2 wasn't enough last time. We've got 4 large T1 generators, and as you can see, they look pretty good with the little cylinder block in the middle. Kind of looks like it's all one continuous unit. And yes, they are fuel containers, T2 fuel cells behind them, and yes, in between them is the T3 CPU extenders just there and there. Now you can technically go into that area, but obviously that's incredibly hazardous. The heat and radiation's quite a lot. Over here we've kind of got some more fuel cells, oxygens in this section over here, and we've got the shield generator, and again we've sealed this off with a nice glass window, so we shouldn't be able to get ourselves irradiated too easily. Through here is the main deck. Now I'm still doing internal modelling on the interior. I've allocated that space to the gravity generator at the minute because I can't find anywhere else on the interior where I can realistically pin it that's not going to interfere with anything, so that's why it's got the fence around it at the minute. That is going to be something that the players are going to have to be aware of. Potentially I might extend that out a little bit, but at the minute I think it's, you know, if I put some hazard markings on the ground and I put the fence around it, I think players will be wise enough not to go, oh look at this, it's a gravity generator, let's sit right on top of it and die. Right, so, you know, use some common sense basically. If it's spinning around generating heat or radiation, don't go and touch it. We've got these areas here, so I've put some makeshift stairs in at the minute. These give you access to essentially what is the engineering sections on either side of the ship. So I'm still doing a lot of the colouring in that, but I just wanted to give you a preview of the kind of layout and functionality. So essentially most of the core functionalities in the ship already. I'm just doing the modelling bit. So yeah, this fence is to stop you kind of irradiating yourself, getting yourself cooked again. Some piping to give the illusions that fuel is being pumped around all over the ship. You might have noticed when we were in the hangar bay that there's a bit of a piping system going on at the end here, so it looks like some fuel coming from the ceiling. We've got fans up there, we've got sensors up there as well. God, that is really loud. Yeah, we've got the core. The core has been placed in the ceiling just there. The reason I've done that is because I've worked out in terms of the hull placement that technically is the safest place for the core to be. I kind of like what I've done with these blocks just here going into it. It looks like it's some kind of reactor unit. I put the T2 CPU extender up there as well, and I put some, for now, these are just temporary ammo containers up there to hold the ammunition for the main weaponry. Up here I've kind of earmarked the armor locker area as well as the O2 stations. This is the other engineering bay. This one is incredibly hazardous, I have to say. The heat and radiation in here is just absolutely insane, and the scary thing is we've not used all the space behind these blocks. There's a lot of space in the wing sections either side which I haven't fully utilized yet. I'm leaving them partially empty because it's just basically a nice little space where you can do some extensions. I'm happy with fuel units at the minute. We are currently up to 57,324 T2 fuel units cells, and we've got 12 T2 oxygen tanks as well. So we've got a lot of O2 and we've got a lot of fuel. I think that's a good split. I haven't put any RCSs in here because we just do not need them. In terms of its maneuverability for the size of the ship and the weight of the ship, it's incredibly agile. Let's just have a quick look at the torque. So those numbers are pretty good. I mean, the pitch is probably not as good as what you'd like, but in terms of the roll and the yaw, that's decent. In terms of directional thrust, we've got pretty good. We've got equal front and rear thrust. We've got equal side thrust, and we've got equal top and bottom thrust. So it's all pretty good. I'm really happy with those figures. I've taken it out for a test flight. The ship flies really, really, really well. It is a fairly big ship. It's a size 2. Our previous gunship was a size 1. So this is already, I'd say, if we go to God mode for a second, let's have a look at that. I think it's about 50% bigger. Yeah, so this just call it 1,000 ton ship. This is up to about 1,500 tons. So it is a really, really heavy ship compared to that one. And as you saw from those stats again, this is quite a chunky ship as well. So it's 38 meters wide, 66 meters long, 22 meters high. Compared to this one over here, this is 26 meters by 50 by 14. So overall, this ship is definitely increased in terms of volume. I mean, just looking at this area here compared to the volume of that other ship, it's just absolutely insane. And the fact I've been able to get all of the engineering, heavy equipment in the back here and still got room. So if we just go in the back here, look at all this gorgeous space, and that's up top as well. So we've got plenty of room, potentially for more fuel tanks, for more O2, potentially other generators. I was thinking about that, actually sticking some smaller generators in here as backups, but I thought it might be a bit overkill. I've padded out parts of the ship as well. Most of the hull is just 1 block thick. We're relying on the T2 shield generator at the minute to provide overall protection for the vessel. I've spaced out the ventilation units pretty realistically throughout the entire ship. Obviously I'm not going to stick fans on the ground because, well, frankly, why would you want people walking over a fan? We'll have them in the ceiling. One thing you might have noticed is a lot of this going on. So this kind of hazard striping everywhere. The hazard striping's been put there because I'm alerting the player and myself to either hazardous areas. So right here, technically behind this bit, there's a thruster. So if I was to take that block out, what you'd see is the medium engine on the other side, and if you get too close to that, like if you shove yourself right into the corner there, you're obviously getting a bit of bleed through from the corner, so a bit of heat, a bit of radiation kind of thing, and I don't want players kind of irradiating themselves. So those 4 rounded blocks, that's what's going on there, which is why I put the hazard lines there. These here are to signify blocks that are placed into the kind of ground or into the walls to effectively plug a hole for now. Technically there is no reason why I can't have the block there. It's just I've put the block there to kind of make it more consistent with why is there just an open gap just here. There's just no reason for it, so I put a block there and put hazards on it just to say if I need to take a block out and replace it with something, these blocks would be ideal for that. As you can see, that cross on the ground is exactly the shape of the cross on the ceiling. Obviously I've made use of that area. On the ground I haven't, so I might, not saying I will, but I might potentially stick another second, he says, I'm thinking about it, I might stick a second cargo area and use this area as a cargo extender area, leaving it at 1 block spacer, because that's already a 320,000 unit storage, but I don't really want storage units on the ground, to be honest. Anyway, I'll figure it out. So yeah, the ship's going really well at the minute in terms of functionality. There's only a few things I need to put in to make it realistically complete for you know, just general operation. Obviously a food processor, a fridge and a medical set of equipment, so probably your standard 3 medical stations to kind of keep you alive. Don't see any reason for anything else. In terms of the interior, it's just going to be painting and just sticking some RP elements in there, but I may need to expand the bridge area slightly. At the minute is just this chair at the front. The view out the front of the chair is fairly good. As you can tell, we've got a fair bit of visibility. That's one of the complaints I had with my gunship design. Let's just turn the engines off. Right, so one of the problems I had, going to God mode again, was the fact the visibility in the front of this gunship was really limited because of the way I'd done my windows. So let's turn that off as well. And yeah, so you've only got this small narrow gap in the middle, so if you're trying to fly the ship in first person, you're struggling. And it's because of this offset of the windows. It looks really cool from the outside, but it makes for really poor visibility on the inside. Right, on this ship I kind of learnt the lessons with that, so I did this cross section for the visibility. So from the chair, you've got really good visibility over the top of you. I thought that was really good. Unfortunately, because of the way your seat's positioned, you can't really see underneath you, so looking over your shoulder and seeing something fly over the top of you is really good. You can see fairly good outside. You can see at your feet as well, and you can see up fairly decent up above. So it's pretty much all the visibility you need. Yeah, I could have taken those blocks out and put something else in, but I kind of liked this cross section. It kind of focuses your attention. See what is in front of you, don't see what is not in front of you. If something's flying over the top of you, you can look down this window here and see it flying over the top. So I do like that. The heavy glass as well. I do prefer heavy glass over your standard glass. It's just a shame that you can't get more shapes in heavy glass. In terms of the exterior, let's talk about that. As I said, most of the hull is a single block thickness in terms of armour. It's standard steel. Placement of engines is pretty logical. Most of the engine power is located on these wing units just here. And then you've got essentially manoeuvring thrusters along the front section of the ship. Yeah, so as you can see, the top thrusters there are on the wing sections. Same with underneath. So there's 6 thrusters going up, 6 thrusters going down. There's 8 thrusters going forward, 8 thrusters going back, 3 thrusters going left, 3 thrusters going right. So you've got a nice logical spread of thrusters. All of them are mediums. There are no small thrusters. Everything is standard medium thrusters. In terms of its armaments, well, of course, if this is going to be a kind of ground invasion ship, it needs weapons that are going to work in an atmosphere, and that is exactly what I've decided to fit on this ship. We have 4 chain guns, we have 4 projectile turrets, so we've got these 2 chain guns on the sides here. They're on these extended platform sections, so the idea is, think of it like your AC-130 with its big kind of chain gun howitzer kind of artillery cannon providing ground support. This ship strafes, and these guns just take the hell out of whatever is causing you problems. These turrets will most likely be configured in some way to realistically deal with drones. I'm not too bothered by, well, probably drones and ground forces, but not turrets, because they just don't have the firepower for turrets, and it will most likely be the job of the projectile turrets to provide the necessary firepower to take out turrets as well as fortified structures. Is that? No, it's not. It's just the way the lighting's landing on it. So, and that's just the first 2 primary armaments. We do have a load of secondaries. Let's just get them online so you can have a look. So if we switch that on, immediately sentry turrets. this ship has absolutely stupid amount of sentry turrets. So we've got, I think I count something like 24 sentry turrets. Yes, I do think that's a little overkill. Is it 24? No, sorry, 16. It's 16 sentry turrets. Yes, I do know that breaks the block limitation, but I switched that off. I don't see any reason why I can't have more than 8 turrets. That's just a bit silly. So, and plus 8 turrets are not all going to be firing at once. So, we've got 2 turrets on the wing on the top, 2 turrets on the wing at the bottom facing in opposite direction. We've got sentry turrets above the projectile turrets top and bottom. We've got projectile turrets facing forward, top and bottom again. Exactly the same thing on the opposite sides. Two on the top, 2 at the bottom on the wing sections. Then we've got 2 more turrets on the rear. So we've got a turret facing backwards here, just beyond the radar dish, and we've got 1 on the entrance just there to provide some cover for any approaching vehicle trying to get into the hangar, just in case it's being pursued. Overall, that provides a good spread of protection against potential ground troops. In fact, I might do that. I might configure the chains and sentries for ground troops and the projectiles for just ground and pound on the old turrets. In terms of visibility, we've got 2 massive spotlights going on, so let's just turn them on. I'm really happy by the spotlights, by the way. I really like what I've done with it. I'm just going to show these off. In fact, turning the power on, it might help. Turrets, thrusters off. So what we've got is a double spotlight unit. Why double? For redundancy, because these things get taken out fairly easily with 1 shot. And what we've done to make sure it's extra protected from the front is we stuck, and I don't know if anyone else has done this, a round heavy window in front of the block. And that effectively, if we just change the lighting for a second, look at that, guys. It's like you've got a giant torch. It absolutely looks gorgeous, doesn't it? Absolutely brilliant. So that is protected, and it's providing double lighting through the double stacking of the lighting block, and it just looks really, really good. And we've got a similar one on the bottom, so both the top and bottom, you can see how blinding that is. That is really blinding. Look at the visibility on that. That's absolutely insane at the minute. So we've got really good visibility top and bottom. From the cockpit, it's just absolutely lit up. So it actually makes visibility a bit hard, to be fair. I might need to do something about that. But yeah, the idea is it's sort of yeah, it's because of the glow on the inside of the glass. That's a bit annoying. Okay. But it's the effect that matters. We've also done some patterning on the front hull here to give it this kind of neon kind of spotlight effect, which is actually working out pretty good, isn't it? I mean, look at that. It's really quite bright. Let's just turn the lights off for a second. Yeah, I mean, they're still pretty bright. They're obviously not providing any illumination, but the idea is the visual effect. So that looks pretty good, combined with the lighting on top. We've got a couple of lights on the hull itself. In fact, if we just put lights on, take the spotlights off, let's just turn that off so you can see the lighting. There you go. So there's a bit of lighting effect on the hull itself. That provides a bit of illumination for the gun turrets, so it's a bit of a atmospheric effect. So I like that. That's pretty good. So overall, let's just take it out for a quick test flight so you can see how it handles. Let's get in here. That's probably actually better to. Oh, I've not got night vision. So put lights on, put the thrusters on. Let's go first person. Yeah, in terms of first person, you've got a lot of visibility there, haven't you? So let's put it back to day. Just get this sun in the right position. There we go. That'll do. So that should be about. So immediately, easy takeoff. Really easy to handle. Really good maneuverability. Now, if you imagine you've got your turrets firing, you're circling the target, all of those guns turn sideways. Yeah, they're going to have a bad day. And then once you've taken out your turrets and your drones, you just land nearby and you just promptly jump in the back, get a tank out, drive out the back, and go and wreck someone else's day. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. It lands with the main belly of the rear of the ship. It's perfectly balanced as well, so there's no drift. This is one of the things I was a bit concerned of when I originally designed it with undercarriage. When it landed, it tilted over because for some reason the undercarriage made it. I was waiting for that noise. That is so loud. That is so loud. Yeah, so as you can see there, it's nicely squared off on the flat belly of the ship. With the landing gear, for some reason it became front heavy and the ship would basically fall forward and crash nose first into the ground. So yeah, I'm really happy with this design. It's actually a remodel of one of my previous designs, but I never had a purpose for the design. So I kind of got it out of mothball, out of my prototypes, and I took it apart. I looked at what was good about it, I looked at what was bad about it, and I rebuilt it from scratch. And this is the result. And I'm really happy with the design. This is going to be called, if you're wondering what it's going to be called, it's going to be called the Thunder class Corvette. It is primarily designed for ground operations, so transporting tanks to ground, transporting small vehicles to the ground, taking out small installations, and helping with ground invasion. We needed a ship that did that. The gunship is really good for space operations. We needed something for the ground, and that is the ship for it. So let's just park it back on the platform. I mean, you can see how easy it just takes off. The number of engines, the redundancies, yeah, you're all right. You're not going to be running any problems with this guy. The only thing it could potentially do with is, I'm thinking maybe we should have a tier 3 shields early on. Make a T3 shield, make it a lootable item, like an epic shield generator. That would be absolutely fantastic if you could have things like that. Because at the minute the T2 shield is just not enough. We do need a bit of a stronger defense unit for things, because at the minute with the AI using player turrets, they're just going a bit OTT, especially with the ground installations. Unless you're a bit of a hacky guy and you sort of do the vertical drop down, which kind of defeats the purpose of the gameplay really. If you effectively get into an orbital position and just fire down on an installation, there's just no point in having shields, because essentially you'll never get shot at. I like to try and make it a bit more realistic, have a bit of a fight, even if it means my ship might get a bit damaged. So yeah, that's the Thunder, everyone. I hope you like the design. I know the interior is not finished. Don't know why my heart's suddenly beating. and it should be stopping. There you go. Anyway, so that will be making the rounds into the current playthrough series, probably in the next 2 episodes, simply because if we're going to take Zirac planets, we're going to need a ship like this to do that. The gunship obviously has its purpose, but we do need something a bit more robust for the ground operations. So I hope you like it. I hope you're looking forward to seeing it. Alright, so that's it for the reveal and for this episode. I hope you hit that like and subscribe, and there'll be more videos like this coming out in some time. So for now, thank you for watching, and do make sure to go and view that series 3. It's really important. Alright, catch you in a bit.